Welcome and thank you for standing by. All attendees are in a listen-only mode for the duration of today's webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded and may be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to your host from the U.S. Census Bureau, Linda. Linda, you may begin.
Thank you, Anthony. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Lee, and I would like to welcome everyone to the Exploring Census Data webinar series on using public data to make decisions, where we will be looking at business and demographic programs with data that can help in the decision-making process. So let's go ahead and dive right in. A brief background about the Exploring Census Data webinar series. It is a series of webinars presented by topics with real-life use cases. The webinars are presented by subject matter experts, and you'll have the opportunity to connect with our presenters using the chat feature throughout the presentation and during the Q&A segment at the end of the presentation. The series has been around for several years, and we have recordings of past webinars posted on census.gov found under the Census Academy. The first link will lead you directly to the archive recordings, and if you would like to learn more about our trainings, please use the second link to the Census Academy's main page. Please note that we are utilizing technology off-site, and we aim to provide you with the best experience possible. Should we experience any technical delays during our session, please utilize the chat feature and let us know of issues, and we will mitigate them as soon as possible. On today's agenda, I will briefly touch on about the Census Bureau. Then I'll turn the presentation over to my colleagues to go into today's topic and present the materials from the Government Unit Survey, the Annual Survey of State Government Finances, the Annual Survey of State and Local Government Finances, the Annual Survey of Public Employment and Payroll, the Annual Survey of Public Pensions, and the American Community Survey. Today, we have two speakers with extensive knowledge and expertise on these programs. Up first is Ms. Melinda Caskey. Melinda is a supervisory survey statistician with the public sector program specializing in the Annual Survey of Public Pensions. Melinda will present publicly available information and data ranging from finances to employment, pensions, and much more. Then next is Mr. Caleb Hopler. Caleb is a supervisory survey statistician with the American Community Survey Office. Caleb will present on demographic characteristics and the importance of the data. Caleb will also provide a live demonstration on how to get the data. Finally, we will close out with a Q&A. Now, although we have a section at the end dedicated to Q&A, please feel free to send in your questions during the presentation, and we will respond when possible. About the Census Bureau is the federal government's largest of the 13 statistical agencies, where we conduct over 130 surveys each year, with some of our more well-known ones listed here. Now, first on the list, many people recognize the decennial census that is conducted every 10 years, counting the population and housing. Next is the American Community Survey, also commonly referred to as the ACS. This is a yearly survey of the nation's population. And in a moment, Caleb will dive into the details of the ACS. Now, from the business data side of the house, we have the economic census that measures American businesses. The economic census has a public sector's counterpart called the Census of Governments. This is the official 5-year measure of the nation's state and local government sector. And we'll hear more about this today from Melinda. This slide lists examples of a few of our widely used monthly and quarterly annual economic surveys. Monthly surveys are a part of the economic indicators, and they are included in reporting the GDP. And the annual surveys include nearly every sector of the economy. Now, when it comes to our data, a pyramid is a nice representation of the relationship between timeliness and details. At the top of the pyramid are high-frequency programs where data are released on a bi-weekly basis with less details available in comparison to the programs on the lower levels in the pyramid. Then sliding down a level to our monthly and quarterly surveys, these surveys are timely and include the nation's key economic indicators. And as mentioned on the previous slide, they are used for tracking and reporting the GDP. Moving down another step are the annual surveys. These are surveys that provide data for nearly every sector of the economy, and data from these programs are useful for analyzing trends. Then we have the economic census that takes place every 5 years. This is our most comprehensive data source for business data. Finally, at the base of the pyramid are administrative data that serves as the foundation of our statistics. And now I would like to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Melinda. All yours, Melinda.
Hi, Melinda, can you make sure you unmute?
Thank you so much, Anthony. When we talk about public sector data, we're talking about governments. Linda mentioned the census of governments, which, as it sounds, is a survey of all governments. The number and the type of governments changes all the time. The Government Units Survey, or GUS, is how we update the government's master address file. And that is how we know who should be a part of the census of governments. So what is the scope of this public sector statistics? The census of governments is mailed as 3 separate components: organization, employment, and finance. And we'll talk about each one of these. But first is organization. GUS is the first component of the census of governments that is mailed. GUS data was last compiled in 2021 as part of the 2022 Census of Governments. It covers all 50 states, but not island territories, and all local governments. The District of Columbia is included as a local government, as it's not part of any state. The next GUS and Census of Governments will be 2027. We have to clearly define parameters for what constitutes a government and what does not. We have 3 tests to tell us if we have a unique and separate government. Existence is an obvious criteria, but not a sufficient one. Governmental character implies a high degree of responsibility to the public, and substantial autonomy establishes some level of independence from their parent governments. It's not a branch or a sub-office, but a separately operating entity. One of the most interesting sources that I think everyone should browse is the individual state descriptions report. It's fascinating to me. Our country is a pretty diverse place, and the way that governments choose to conduct the business of governance is just as diverse. Every state has their own unique quirks. Louisiana has no counties, they have parishes. Alaska has boroughs. Hawaii, all school districts are administered by the state. At every other state, schools are administered at the local level. Some interesting gems in this publication. And if you find this link in the slides, you can get more information about it. As time goes on and populations increase everywhere, the trend has been for governments to rely on an ever-increasing number of special districts to make decisions on specific topics that elected representatives may not be experts in. Administrators of special districts still answer to higher levels of government and, as public entities, to the public as well. But a special district can serve a single purpose or multiple purpose. A single function might be libraries, while a multiple function might combine sewage and water supply in one district. I picked up a few examples from the individual state descriptions publication, so you can see here, like California Geologic Hazard Abatement District, San Andreas Fault, anybody? The Colorado Metro Football Stadium District, go Broncos, am I right? The Delaware Tax Lagoons wasn't what I thought it was at first. It's actually for the repair and maintenance of actual lagoons. And bless the Florida Mosquito Control District. Their battle is an uphill one. Now that we've concluded GUS and we know what governments we are collecting data on, we can get their finance data. State finance and local finance are actually different divisions in public sector, completely different people who collaborate very closely. State finance usually concludes their state survey first, and then local finance's survey results are rolled into the combined state and local finance statistics. You can get ASFIN separately, but ALFIN comes with the state data as well. Our data is public data, which means that for most governments, you can go to their website and download their financial reports. But speaking from personal experience, I can tell you that unless you have a strong affinity for finance, it is not a good time. You'll be battling boredom and confusion the whole time. And forget about comparing two states using these reports. We talked about the diversity in governance, and that carries over to how they report their finances. No two financial reports do the same thing. Alphen allows that comparison. Not only does it put all of the values in one place, but it also classifies that diverse data into functional categories that are common across all geographies. I didn't put all of the functional categories here, but I did put some so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about when I say functional categories. Our data, like we use these to answer questions using our summary data. So imagine that you want to relocate to an area where natural resources are prioritized. It's big on your priority list. How do you create your short list? Well, we can learn a lot about a government's priorities by looking at where they spend their money. In the US, although the system is imperfect, we do have a representative democracy. So when we talk about government priorities, we're indirectly talking about the people. So when we say what states prioritize natural resource spending over other states, we are also saying where are the people who value public investment and management and protection of natural resources. This link will take you to the summary data that we're going to use. So this is the top 20 state and local governments in order of natural resource expenditure. And I know, and you can probably tell, that what we're actually picking up here is the fact that these are high population states. More people equals more spending. And I don't find this very satisfying. This doesn't answer our question. So to remove these effects of high population, we do that by getting the state population data from census, of course, but more specifically, the American Community Survey, and calculate per person expenditure. And this is what we get. Per person expenditure by state and local governments on natural resources. And as you can see, the top 20 has changed dramatically. States in the Mountain West, like North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Alaska, have risen to the top, along with coastal states, Florida, Louisiana, Maryland. So this demonstrates that sometimes the best data stories benefit from a different perspective and a secondary data set. Unit level data allows for two things. First, it allows you to focus at a specific government level that matters to you. It's not a summation of all the state or all the local data, but at a county level or a school district level. And second, it allows you to look at specific items and functions that concern you. One example I have here is water supply data. I put the item code that Census uses after the label, so you can see that there is a pattern that can be exploited to get to the data that you want. Here, every item code that ends in 91 relates to water supply data. Here's a couple of other examples, but I want you to remember that this data is designed to facilitate comparisons across locations. It's not meant to be the direct source for data about one location. If you really do want to know what the school lunch revenue for Moffett School District 2 in Saguache County was, it would be much easier to go directly to the district website. It's there. And the same for the High Plains Library District in Weld County, Colorado. If you actually need that unit level data, go straight to the source. But if you want to explore specific data across smaller geographies, we might have the data for that. The purpose of showing you this drill down is to give you a picture of the layers of data that are rolled up into some of these item codes. Now I pulled a little switcheroo here, and I hope you'll forgive me, but I really wanted to talk about these two brand new data items, the cannabis excise sales tax and the sports betting tax collection. We have two links for you here. One goes to a really great multi-year visualization of cannabis tax collections, and the other is for a great article that has more detail about sports betting tax collections. They are included in the ALF and tax data totals, but the best place to find these numbers is in the quarterly tax revenue data, or Q-tax as we call it. You might be asked to vote on one or both of these issues in your state, and the best decisions are made when we have the maximum information. This is a third, but not the final component of the Census of Governments, the annual survey of public employment and payroll. The key information to remember when you're looking at ASPEP data is that they publish data for the month of March. This is key. The other surveys are on an annual basis, but ASPEP is for March. They publish national level data as well as by state, and they include state and local civilian employees. Like the finance surveys, they also have a unit file with finer geographies. The variables that they collect are full-time and part-time employment and payroll. ASPEP is also the only employment survey that provides a full-time conversion, putting full-time and part-time employees together in a precise way that allows a comprehensive look at employment that includes both categories. And that they have their brand new report is available there, the March 2023 data, and they have a nice summary report that gives you the highlights there. ASPEP also uses functional categories, and they mirror those of state and local finance data in many ways, but there are some key differences. Police protection is separated into those with power of arrest and those without at the state and the local level. Not all employees working in police protection have power of arrest, and we can't blanketly refer to them as officer or sheriff either. Some people with power of arrest work as trainers at training academies or in a specialty enforcement division. We even have Homeland Security employees with power of arrest at the state and local level. We do the same separation with fire protection, those who are firefighters versus those who are not, and in education, those who are instructors and those who are not. It's a very useful distinction. I looked separately at people with power of arrest for both full and part-time, and this is our top 10. On the left is the state, and on the right is the local. But please notice, these are not the same scale. These charts are not on the same scale. Local employees are far greater than state. But like our natural resource question, all this says to us is that states with more people have more people with power of arrest. Not only is this not new information, it's also not helpful. So let's give this data the treatment we did for natural resource data. Let's look at our per capita data. Now we have a completely different picture. But notice we're actually looking at the number of citizens per employee, or per officer, but remember, we're careful about using that word. The number of citizens that each employee has general responsibility for. And the top 10 has changed significantly. And I want to look at these exact same charts again, but I want to put locals together with locals and state together with state to get a more complete picture. So on the left, we have total count of state employees with powers of arrest for the top 10 states. And on the right, we have the per capita values. So in some states, the employees with power of arrest are responsible for a larger proportion of citizens than in other states. And that pattern continues with the local governments. The totals are on the left, the per capita is on the right. But something important I want to add is that the average across all local governments is about 546 citizens per officer. Among these top 10, and actually across all the geographies, there's not much spread. It's here we see 626 to 865 in the top 10, which is not much different from the average across all states. And in fact, it's probably no surprise to learn that police protection administrators use population data, most often census data, to determine appropriate staffing levels. They also use ASPEP data, not just in police protection, but across all of our functional categories to determine competitive wages. Some governments use the unit file to look at geographies near their own, to see what people are paid nearby, to see what their staffing levels are. So the respondents who answer the ASPEP survey take it very seriously because they are also among the final users of the data, and they have an incentive to make sure that it's right. And last but not least is the public pension data. And this is the area where I am considered a subject matter expert. So hopefully I can do it justice in just a few slides. 4 things we measure in public pensions: money paid in by employees and governments, money earned by investments, money paid out in benefits, refunds, administrative expenses, those types of things, and the money held in short and long-term investments. And we also measure membership. So active members are people who are currently employees, who are making contributions on a regular basis. Beneficiaries can be retired employees, but they can also be eligible spouses or dependent children. Inactive membership is a pool of people. They could be people who no longer work for the government who would be getting a refund of their contributions. They could be employees who are entitled to a full pension but are no longer working currently for the government. Or they could be new employees who are in a waiting period before they're eligible to participate in the pension. Within the last week, this is brand new data, we've finalized and gotten approval for our 2023 annual survey of public pensions. We have that data available at this link. And I've incorporated some of this data into the next slides. So this first chart demonstrates the number of public pensions. So I've colored the local pensions blue and the state pensions red. Pretty dramatic difference, right? We have thousands more local pensions than we do state pensions. But this is the number of people participating in public pensions. It's completely flipped. Here, the state pension membership is yellow and the local pension membership is blue. So this really provides a complete picture of the difference between state and local government pensions, doesn't it? But another thing to notice here is that membership is pretty flat over time. Not a lot of up and down in participants. But we don't see the same steady level when we look at beneficiaries. In fact, there's a very clear trend in the number of beneficiaries. And now we already know that population levels go up each year. So just to be thorough, let's use our population data one more time to look at these participants as a percent of population. Active membership is in red. And going back to 82 or sooner, the level stays generally between 4 and 5% of the US population. Beneficiaries, which are here in blue, clearly demonstrate the same trend that we saw in the total counts on the previous chart. In fact, this reflects what's happening across the US, which one article I read dubbed the silver tsunami. Since 2011, about 10,000 baby boomers a day turn 65. Today, people 65 and older are about 18% of the population, but by 2054, they'll swell to 23% of the population. So this is going to put pressure not just on public pensions, but also on health services, housing, transportation, social services, you name it. So it matters. Now let's talk about money. I've adjusted all of these dollar values to remove inflation. So we're looking at 2023 dollars for every year here. This is the state level data. Blue is employee contributions, red is state government contributions. And that deep blue line floating above the contributions is the benefits paid out. Now imagine if contributions were your only source of money into the pension and you're paying out at the dark blue level. It wouldn't take very long before you depleted your asset pool, and it'd be catastrophic to the budget if they had to make up this gap year after year from current taxes and funds. But thankfully, this isn't what happens. Instead, public pensions invest their money in a multitude of places, obviously stocks and bonds and federal treasury bills and T-notes, mutual funds, sometimes real estate or timber. And we even saw a couple systems get into some hot water recently because they were making up this difference with cryptocurrency speculation. That's not a great idea. It's not ideal, certainly high risk. But let's look at this data for local governments also, so we have a full picture. Now for local governments, the picture is the same. However, the gap between the contribution levels and the benefits paid that has to be made up by gains on investments is smaller. Now, in general, local governments have more flexibility to modify their contribution rates and their benefits paid, and those decisions are easier to implement at the smaller local level than at the state level. Closer governance allows for more options, in other words, but there is still a gap to make up for. Now, I want to wrap this up by providing some perspective. Now, this data is actually a week old, and I think NVIDA is now past Apple in the top 10, but the top 10 remain the same. So market cap is the total dollar value of a company's outstanding shares of stock. So they take the stock price times the number of shares. And it's generally a pretty good measure of how big a company is or how valuable a company is. State and local pension plans hold enough assets to buy about 5 of the top 6 companies in the world and still have money left over. We are talking about a lot of money, $5.4 trillion worth of money. To provide even more perspective, the gross domestic product, which is the monetary value of all finished goods and services made within a country in a given period, pension plans fall here. They hold more assets than the gross domestic product of every country on earth except the US and China. So at Census, we pride ourselves on producing data for all audiences and remaining non-political in how we present our data. But outside of Census, there is no way that $5.4 trillion isn't political. That's 5 trillion reasons why pension plans matter. We've used so much ACS data already in our conversation. You already know how useful it can be, but Caleb is going to be able to expand on that and give you a fuller picture of the value you can gain from ACS data.
Thank you so much, Melinda. That was great. Now that we have talked about the economic side, I would like to talk about the demographic side. So my name is Caleb Hopler, and I will be speaking about the American Community Survey, or ACS. Again, you just learned great sources of public data from our economic programs, but I would like to look at demographic, social, economic, and housing data from the ACS, which is data from the household standpoint instead by business location. The American Community Survey, or ACS, is the premier source of detailed information about the nation's people and housing. The survey samples approximately 3.5 million addresses each year, and these data are collected continuously throughout the year to produce annual social, economic, housing, and demographic estimates for the communities throughout the United States and Puerto Rico. The estimates cover more than 40 topics. The ACS collects this detailed information each year that was previously collected by the decennial census each decade. Information from the ACS generates data that help inform how trillions of dollars in federal funds are distributed each year, supporting more than 300 known federal uses and countless non-federal uses. ACS data are timely because they are released the year immediately following the year in which they were collected. The ACS creates period estimates, which just means that they represent the characteristics of the population and housing over a specific data collection period. So the ACS releases estimates for 1 year and 5-year periods. After years of extensive testing, the ACS was fully implemented in 2005. The ACS 1-year estimates, the very first ones released, were collected in 2005 and released in 2006. The first 5-year ACS estimates were collected between 2005 to 2009 and then released in 2010. So let's talk about who uses the ACS and why. As I just mentioned, information from the ACS generates data that help inform how trillions of dollars in federal funds are distributed each year. And one of these federal uses is the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National School Lunch Program, which provides nutritionally balanced, low-cost or no-cost lunches to children each school day. There are also many other users of ACS data, such as local planners, policymakers, businesses, nonprofits, researchers, and more. Most people probably never think about how local planners use ACS data to know where to target new development or services or where businesses get data they need to plan for expansion. For example, the city of Fairview Park in Ohio used ACS data to inform a grant application for a new restroom at a local park to replace one that closed in 2018. With these stories and your own uses of ACS data, it's easy to say that ACS is vital for decision making. The content collected by the American Community Survey can be grouped into 4 main types of characteristics: social, demographic, economic, and housing. Taking a closer look at some of the information within each categories include for the social characteristics, we have topics such as educational attainment, language spoken at home, and school enrollment. For demographic characteristics, we have sex, age, race, Hispanic origin as examples, and economic characteristics include such topics as commuting to work, employment status, and income. And housing characteristics include topics like computer and internet use, housing costs, and vehicles available. So these topics are used to produce more than 1,000 tables for local communities each year. Along with the numerous topics covered, the ACS also provides data for more geographies on an annual basis than any other household survey. The image on this slide shows some of the geographies for which ACS data are produced and the relationship between them. Lower geographic areas fit neatly within the larger areas, directly connected with the lines that you see on the screen. So for example, the school, congressional, and state legislative districts fit neatly within states and do not cross state boundaries. However, they may cross boundaries of counties or metropolitan areas. In this visualization, you can see that the smallest geographic building block is the block group. You see that at the bottom of this screen here, and block groups include between 600 and 3,000 people in each group. The ACS's unique ability to report on a wide range of geographies is what gives it such a broad appeal. We offer many different types of data products to meet the needs of our data users. Pre-tabulated profiles and tables are products that are already created for you. The data profiles are good places to start for novice data users as they contain the most frequently requested social, economic, housing, and demographic data in a separate profile. The data profiles summarize the data for a single geographic area, providing both estimates and percentages to cover the most basic data on all ACS topics. Tables provide a precise or detailed view of a subject, so they are the best source for the most comprehensive ACS tables. And if you are not able to find an existing table to meet your needs, we also offer public use microdata sample or PUMS files that allow you to create custom tables. PUMS files contain a sample of individual records of people and households that responded to the survey, but of course, stripped of all identifying information. But this information is best for data users with expertise in using statistical packages. So catering to a variety of data users with unique needs, we have a variety of data access tools. Now on the screen here, I'm showing a list of a few of these tools, but I'm going to go through a live demo of the first 3 on the top row of the screen. So starting at the top left, we have data.census.gov, and this is the Census Bureau's main data dissemination platform to access Census Bureau statistics. My congressional district gives you quick and easy access to selected statistics collected by the ACS, as well as the county business patterns in the economic directorate. And then Quick Facts provides selected statistics for all states and counties and for cities and towns with a population of 5,000 or more. And this tool uses the ACS, but it also other Census Bureau data sets like the Population Estimates Program, County Business Patterns, and more. On the Map for Emergency Management provides data for disasters, natural hazards, and weather events using the ACS, as well as other Census Bureau data sets as well. We also have My Tribal Area, and this is a great tool that gives you quick and easy access to selected ACS statistics for tribal areas. Our tool called My Community Explorer is an interactive map-based tool highlighting demographic and socioeconomic data from the ACS and other Census Bureau data sets. We also have Census Business Builder. This provides selected demographic data from the ACS and economic data from the Census Bureau to help users start or grow a business or to understand the business landscape for a region. And finally, I want to highlight the Application Programming Interface, or API, because this lets developers create custom apps to reach new users and make key demographic, socioeconomic, and housing statistics more accessible than ever before. So all these data tools and more are available from census.gov. I would encourage you to follow the link at the bottom of this slide here, or that my colleague has put in the chat today. So let me switch gears here. I want to take a few moments and demonstrate a few ACS data tools through a live demo. So I'm going to demonstrate how to access data from data.census.gov, then from QuickFacts, then I'll switch over to my congressional district. So going over these real quick, let's set some scenarios of when to know when to use each type. So if you want to be able to view margins of error or conduct statistical testing, you would best turn to data.census.gov. You would also use data.census.gov if you wanted more than basic statistics or data cross-tabulated for a large number of geographies. So for example, let's say I wanted to know the percentage of children under 5 who are enrolled in school in all the cities in my state. I would use data.census.gov for that data need. Now let's look at QuickFacts. Some data users may actually just be interested in basic statistics, like the population for their city. This is when you want to turn to QuickFacts, because QuickFacts helps to easily find basic population, business, and geography statistics for a particular city, state, or county with a population of 5,000 or more. So for example, if I wanted to know the percentage of children under 5 in my city, I was not concerned with other geographic areas, and I was not concerned with also having a margins of error, then I would start with QuickFacts. We also have my congressional district, and this is used when data is needed for population and housing data tabulated by the geography of congressional districts. Okay, like I said, I'd like to do a live demo, so let's switch gears here to actually do the demo. And we're going to start with data.census.gov because I want to start here with one of our biggest data tools and platforms. And then we can start going into other tools that's a little bit more basic, but quick and easy. So setting the stage here for this tool and this example today, let's say that after pulling, let's say I'm a data user, and after pulling public data from census economic programs that is needed for grants, let's say I now need to know the median household income in a few census tracts in Boulder County, Colorado. I need to pull that demographic information to add into the grant application. No problem. So in Explore Census Data on data.census.gov, I can either go ahead and start doing simple searches by typing in like household income and then find different options that would pop up here or search in my geography. But personally, I like to go into the advanced search here because this allows me to pinpoint multiple geographies and multiple topics that I want all in one go. And then at the bottom right, I'll click search. So like I said, I'm interested in census tracts. So I'm going to, under geographies, I can click on census tract. And because I want Boulder County, Colorado, I first have to define the state, Colorado, and then I will click on the county I'm interested in, Boulder County. And here I can find my census tracts. So I can either simply scroll through and find the ones that I'm interested in, or I could search for the tract title. But for the purpose of today, I'm just going to click some random census tracts. I'll just do the top 3. And I see that I have them selected up here in the top left. So I know that all of them have been properly grabbed and listed. So I'm good to go with geographies. Now I want to come down and I want to find the median household income. So let's go under housing. Oh, no, I'm sorry, median household income. So not housing, but I want income and poverty because we're talking about the income for the people that live within a household. So here I'll click income and earnings, and then I have this third option that I'm going to select, which is income for households, families, and individuals. So I'm going to go to the bottom right here, click my search. I'm at the all results page. I have a whole list here. I'm going to go ahead and click view all tables just to go into the entire list of tables, and I can keep searching if this list doesn't work for me. But for median household income, actually this table or this first set actually does work for me because I'm going to click the second one, which is, or no, the third one. The second one is mean income, and I want the median. So this third table is the median income. If I click that to check if it's household income, I can see that it is. So I have household income up here, the number of households, and I see my census tract, and I can click this horizontal scroll bar and scroll over to the other geographies that I have selected and just keep on going until I see all of my geographies. And so by this table, I can scroll down and find tabulated a lot of different other data variables against the interested variable that I want, which is the median household income. But likewise, I could keep searching. I can add in different geographies, and I can manipulate the table a little bit. So when I download, I can either go to more tools and download into Excel or as a CSV file to keep working with statistical analysis here. But okay, let me switch gears now because now let's say that I was looking at public data on infrastructure and I need quick commuting statistics for the city of Denver, Colorado. So I need just one geography. It's a larger area. More than 5,000 in population, and I'm really only looking for one basic statistic. So that's when I know, okay, QuickFacts will be a good tool for me. Pretty much everything can be found in data.census.gov. However, for the basic stuff, you can also find it in QuickFacts, and that might be faster for you, which is why I want to demonstrate this. And so if I'm interested in the commuting statistics, commuting time in Denver City, Colorado, I'm going to enter in here, Denver, and the first option is Denver City. So that's what I want. I want it as the city, not as the county. So I'm going to click Denver City, Colorado. And now I have that selected over here and all the statistics that apply. So I can either scroll down and find what I'm interested in. The mean travel time to work is the commuting statistics. That's found under transportation. So I found it here and that works for me. And what I did was I clicked on it and it brings it up to the top up here. But what I also could have done is select a fact, and I do this drop down menu and I go down here and then I click on it. And by clicking, it will also bring it up to the top of the table. So from here, I can download the table, I can look at it as a chart, and I can even add in some other geographies if I want to do very quick comparison of Denver City commuting time versus other areas. I can see that for this case, the mean travel time to work is 25.3 minutes for workers age 16 or older from the latest ACS 5-year estimates of 2018 through 2022. Well, now let's say as another scenario that you pulled public data and now you need to review poverty data to recommend resources or funding for a community that falls in a particular congressional district. And you want to send that report to your congressional representative. A great place to go is my congressional district. Again, this could be found in data.census.gov, but it may be faster using the congressional district tool. And so I can select my state that I'm interested in. So let's just go with Colorado because I've used other examples within Colorado. So I'll keep it the same state. And I see that I have the different congressional districts throughout the state of Colorado. So I can go here and then choose the one that I know I am interested in. Now, let's just say for your particular address or community or area, and you don't know what congressional district that falls into, enter the zip code into this little box down here, and this will tell you what congressional district it is so that you can select the right one. But now that I have the congressional district selected, I'm going to go into socioeconomic characteristics and scroll down a little bit, and I find the poverty estimates, the percentage of families and people whose income in the past 12 months is below the poverty level. I can download and share this information, and I can also choose to display the ACS margins of error if I would like. And again, this is powered by the American Community Survey, but also one of our economic programs, the County Business Patterns. So I hope you found those helpful and useful as walkthroughs. I'm going to switch back to my slides here and begin to wrap up today's webinar. So first, in wrapping up, I'd like to invite you to stay in touch with us. And one way is by telling us how you use data from the American Community Survey. So I'd love to ask you this question. Have you or your organization used ACS data to make an important decision, or perhaps to help your community, or maybe even expand your business or some other great use? If so, please share your ACS data story with us, because we post stories at ACS Data Stories Stats in Action webpage on our website. And this is so that people can learn how data enthusiasts across the country are using ACS data in creative ways. Hearing real-life uses of how the data help communities across the country can give data users ideas about how they too can use ACS data to help their community. Also, in the middle of the screen here, consider joining a group that we have that is specifically for users of ACS data. And this group is known simply as the ACS Data Users Group. The group includes a website and online community with over 5,000 members where you can share messages, you can share materials, share announcements, all related to the survey of the ACS. Membership is free, and it's also open to all interested ACS data users. And finally, you can sign up for our messaging and then also manage your email updates from the ACS. Our monthly events and updates email will alert you when new materials are available, and you'll stay updated on our data releases. So you can visit the QR code under each icon to learn more about these resources, but my colleague has also put the links to these resources in the chat for you today. So that concludes my portion of the ACS, and that actually wraps up the webinar today. I'd like to pass it over to Linda to go ahead and close out the entire webinar. Thank you very much. Linda?
Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, everyone, for your interest and time in attending today's webinar. Thank you, Linda and Caleb, for presenting our audience with an interesting presentation on the public sector statistics and the American Community Survey. So today we featured several programs that can be helpful when looking for information to help in the decision-making process. Please come join us again next month on July 25th at 2 p.m. for a presentation on services in the United States, where our experts will be diving into service sectors of the economy, and you'll be able to learn about the historical, current, and future data and related demographic characteristics. Now, before we begin the Q&A portion of this webinar, please take note of the contact information on this slide. For anyone that may be interested in a hands-on in-person training, we have data dissemination specialists that are available to provide this service. And if you have questions or need more information, please feel free to email us at census.askdata@census.gov. To ask your question now, please submit your question using the Q&A feature, and we will channel your question to the appropriate expert on our panel. All right, let me go ahead and check the Q&A log here and see if there are unanswered questions. Okay, it looks like the questions have either been answered or are assigned to be in process of answering. So I'll give it a few minutes to see if any new questions are rolling in. In the meanwhile, while we're waiting for questions to roll in, I do want to encourage anyone who has questions not related to today's webinar to send us an email at this email address, census.askdata@census.gov, and we'll be able to find someone who will be able to help you with your questions. Okay. So all the questions are currently being answered in the Q&A. So there are no new questions coming in at this time. This time, I would like to confer with my colleague, Anthony. Anthony, how would the Q&A work? Do we keep the WebEx going or do the attendees?
Yeah, so I think when you say it's over, I'll probably leave it open for another 2 minutes so the panelists have a chance to wrap up any answers. And then if any squeeze through, I will send you the Q&A log in case any came in after we were able to answer all of them. Does that sound good?
Yep, that sounds great. Oh, I do have one question that came in. I will read aloud. This one, I believe, is for the ACS team. What is the best way to find census population data for a county to report population changes over time? For example, quick facts or the 5-year estimates.
Hi there. Yes, that is a great question. I would recommend if you're looking for data time period, like over time, changes over time, data.census.gov would be a very good place to start because you're able to select different data years. So if you're looking at 1 year or 5 year, then you can go to a particular table that you're interested in that has the variables you need. And then from there, you can switch between the different years. Of course, we would recommend to compare similar data sets. So only compare 1 year with another 1 year or a 5 year with another 5 year. We would not recommend a 1 year comparing to a 5 year. And then likewise, we do not recommend comparing overlapping data sets. So for instance, if you have a 2018 to 2022 5-year, we wouldn't recommend comparing that with a 2017 to 2021. Make sure that they are not overlapping. That would be our recommendation. But data.census.gov, you would be able to do that. Using Quick Facts or some of our other data tools, like also the My Congressional District, that only pulls from the latest 5-year estimates. Or some tools may pull from the 1 year, but overall, they could be the latest estimates produced. So that's why data.census.gov, or perhaps even the API, would be great locations, because you can look across the different data sets over time that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. It looks like we do not have any additional questions, and I would like to, at this moment, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. This concludes today's presentation. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for joining. You may disconnect at this time.